These have got to be the prettiest set of IEMs that I've ever reviewed, and they do have a sound to match. Thank you to Simgot for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into how these are built and how the unboxing experience is. The unboxing experience is quite premium feeling, and you do get a few extras in the box that I have never seen before. The print and overall finish on the box is very tastefully done. You can see the theme of these IEMs here with Fermat's last theorem written on the front, and the rear has all the specifications along with not one frequency response graph but three. I'll get to why it has these many in a moment. Upon opening the box, you see the continued theme and a neat little write-up on Fermat's theory along with a gold card that has a QR code which will allow you to get a 3-month extended warranty on your product. Then on the inside of the box you see the IEMs. Below it you get an accessory box which holds the literature and 6 sets of ear tips, as well as a little bag with multiple rubber rings which you'll need if you intend on doing some nozzle swapping, which brings me to the next accessory box. You get 4 nozzles that are differently colored and screwed into this metal plate. These can be swapped with the IEMs and tweak the sound signature of these slightly, which is why you saw 3 different graphs at the back of the box. These are made of copper and steel and are as beautifully finished as the IEMs. They have different rubber rings under each one for a better seal, and should you lose the original ones, the spares are provided in the box. You also get a neatly made storage box with the Simgot branding on the lid along with Simgot's motto at the bottom. You'll find the cable on the inside of the case, which is a silver-plated oxygen-free cable with a 0.78 mm 2-pin connector on the side that connects to the IEMs, and the other end is terminated to a 3.5 mm headphone jack. The middle junction is a metal finish to match the 3.5 mm connector, and it does not come with a microphone. Simgot's made it clear their focus is on using these for music or media consumption and nothing else. Moving on to the IEMs themselves. They have an all-metal body, so they are cold to the touch when you first interact with them, and the faceplate has the Simgot logo on it, which you can see through a transparent crystal panel. It's got a very finely made design you can see on the inside, but only when you get really close to it. The Fermat writing is on the lower part of the IEM, and you'll see venting ports on the inside of these. The section that sits against the concha has a passive radiator which has a gold finished meshing, and the IEMs have a left and right marking on the bridge that goes over the radiator meshing. The attention to detail is impeccable. This little nozzle can be unscrewed and swapped with the others provided depending on what kind of tuning you'd like to listen to. It's worthwhile being a little careful when doing this, since you wouldn't want to drop, lose or damage these nozzles, and you also wouldn't want any dust going into the IEM, since it can cause serious damage to the driver and mechanics on the inside of the IEMs. The ear tips provided are a soft silicone material and are quite comfortable to use. I haven't faced any discomfort over longer listening sessions with these IEMs or ear tips. I also like how the ear loops go over the ear and aren't too tight around my ears or too loose either. They're just right. These come with 10 mm dual magnetic, dual cavity dynamic drivers, and also have a 6 mm passive radiator that feeds into the concha. They have a frequency response of 10 Hz all the way up to 50,000 Hz and have a very easy to drive low resistance of just 16 ohms. These come with 3 separate nozzles that you can swap for slightly different tuning. Now this is a complete first for me. I've never experienced any IEM that has something like this for variations in tuning. So the ones that came out of the box are nozzle 2. So I will be speaking about how these sound with this nozzle in particular, but I will expand on the other 2 nozzles as well. On a volume front, when I plug this into my iFi Go link, I find it very easy to listen to these between 25 and 30% volume. And when I shift over to my portable setup that has an external amp, that's sitting at around the 9 o'clock position. And the same goes for my desktop setup at the 9 o'clock position, when both these amps are on their low gain. So they're more than comfortable at that range. Now, if you intend on preserving your hearing, I wouldn't recommend listening to this anywhere between 35 and 40% volume, because it can get a little too loud. Soundstage on these is a little more expansive than I'm used to compared to other IEMs that I've reviewed. A lot of the sound does sit a little further out of the IEM more often than not, but this does vary depending on what kind of music you're listening to, because this does hold true with high resolution music that is mixed and recorded well, whereas when you move over to compressed audio, its stage does reduce considerably. This does have a good center phantom channel and good left and right separation, and with high res audio, like I did mention, your stage is expansive and it does have very slight vertical stage as well. Imaging on these is beautifully detailed. In fact, its overall detail recovery is done very well. I like the fact that Simgot hasn't gone overboard with it and over sharpened it, because sometimes that can be a little too fatiguing if it's a little too detailed. It's just about right with maybe slightly curved edges so it doesn't hurt the ear. I'd say Simgot has done this just right because it's perfect for easy listening, and if you're into it, it's also good enough for critical listening as well. High frequencies are elevated, but it remains clean, crisp, and has a softness in its delivery. You'd think that these would be on the shrill side of things if you observe this nozzle's graph, but I've had these on for song after song and at no point felt any fatigue. Cymbals, chimes, and anything percussive sits here defined and well structured without being overly enthusiastic, which to me makes this even more enjoyable than a set of IEMs trying to impress its listener with overly exaggerated highs to try and emulate detail. This range, it seems, has been tuned with wanting to feed your ears with affection rather than aggression. Listening to Dave Matthews' So Damn Lucky, this soft and easygoing track sucks you into it with these IEMs right from the very first sweet and soft cymbal shimmer and guitar strum. This range in itself has good separation between instruments in this range apart from other frequencies, letting you really enjoy every little bit of emotion that's gone into the music and lyrics here. Mid frequencies do have a recess, but thankfully it doesn't sit too low or far away from you. This range is present without being forward. Instruments and vocal separation in this range is good, and vocals are not sibilant, with this set of nozzles at least. Male and female vocals are well rounded with no dip in the lower mid region. Timbre with these IEMs is terrific in this range, which contributes towards instruments having their own texture, whether you're listening to percussive instruments, wind instruments, horn, reed, or string instruments. Distinguishing between these and vocals is effortless. Listening to Jeff Goldblum and the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra perform, it never entered my mind. I've heard this on many IEMs, and I have to say, Till Bronner's flugelhorn has never sounded truer to me with any other IEMs so far. Not only can you hear great talent through this performance, you can also feel the emotion carried on in it. With recordings as good as this, these IEMs almost let you forget you're listening to them and just let you listen to the music. Low frequencies have a recess compared to the tuning that Simgot has targeted, but it has a touch of class to it. Instead of being big and bloated, it is calm, composed, and well structured. This range does have good weight to it as well as deep extension. If you're coming to these from a wireless set of earphones with bloated bass and you prefer that, this isn't for you. These have a cleaner response than anything wireless, ensuring that this range doesn't tug at the mids and highs, leaving them clean and untouched. I usually don't play back anything EDM when listening to IEMs, but these are good fun to listen to even with heavier music. Whether you want weight with acoustic music or electronic, this set hasn't left me wanting. Listening to an old favorite of mine, Café de Flore by Dr. Rocket. The low rumble in the bass is something I usually don't hear as prominently in some IEMs. These, on the other hand, handle it quite effortlessly without giving you a sense of trying to impress you. It's fun to listen to for sure, but part of me wishes this range was ever so slightly tighter than what it is with electronic music. It's spot on with anything acoustic though, so if you listen to more jazz, blues, or even pop, these are great performers either way. Coming to the nozzles, I've tested these with nozzle 2 on because those were the ones that were on these when I unboxed them. Now, it does seem to have the cleanest internal construction compared to the others. The others do have some materials inside to modulate, or should I say, tune the sound of them slightly differently. Each of these do have a slightly different tuning in certain areas, but the most prominent is between the 3 to 5 kHz region. The gold or brass nozzle with a white silicone ring, which is nozzle 1, appears to have a flat rubber ring on the inside resting on the mesh with a small opening, and it tends to sound sibilant compared to the steel tubes with red silicone rings, which is the ones I've tested these IEMs with. But the bass tends to have a little more energy, which makes it fun to listen to if you like a little more bass emphasis and if you're into having more pronounced high mids. The nozzle with silver steel tubes and black silicone rings, or nozzle 3, appears to have a sponge-like material within the nozzle, which does have slightly less excitement in the high mids, which I quite like. It's easier in this range on the ear while maintaining a smooth and open bass response. I found myself enjoying nozzle 2 and 3 the most since they're not as sibilant as nozzle 1. But with nozzle 2 on, my music did seem ever so slightly richer than nozzle 3. But it's nice that they've included this option with these IEMs. You can roll nozzles depending on what tuning you prefer for different genres of music instead of having different IEMs or headphones to keep swapping. So to sum up, on a build front, I think these are beautifully put together. The overall quality of any of Simgot's products that I've reviewed have been pretty good. This definitely sits way up there compared to any other products of theirs that I've handled. Now, if I'm being picky, the one thing I don't like about these IEMs is the cable length, because I mean, it's perfect for portable music. If you're plugging into your phone or a portable dongle DAC or a portable player, it's a fine length. But when I'm sitting at my desk, I do have a pull-out tray for my keyboard and mouse, and my amp sits a little further away. So when that happens and I lean back on my chair while I'm writing a script or doing anything really, the cable does get tugged. So I would have preferred a slightly longer cable, but I'm just being picky over here. And the other thing that gets me a bit nervous about this, because it is a metal finish and it is chrome, I've got a feeling it's going to pick up scratches over time and may start to look a bit dull within maybe a few months. So that's the only concern I really have with these on a build front. Otherwise, the crystal like plate it has that exposes the Simgot brand and the texture inside it's beautifully done. It is very tastefully done. This does scream premium even if you show it to anybody. Even where it has the gold meshing where the passive radiator sits, it's a beautiful contrast with that gold and the chrome finish. Overall, this just screams premium. On a sound front, I found that these are transparent, not when it comes to music as much, but with the kind of equipment you're listening to, because I was shuffling between my iFi Go Link, my FIO portable player, which is ancient, and my desktop setup. So I do have a separate DAC and amp that were driving these, and it's very clear to see the difference in tonal quality between the equipment you're using. But surprisingly, these are very forgiving when it comes to listening to compressed music. So I have bounced between some high-res music I have on my system, and also I was listening to some compressed music off of YouTube, which of course is completely compressed. Listening to a good recording off of YouTube does sound like a good recording. It doesn't really show you that it is terrifically compressed, so it is a lot more forgiving, which is nice to see. The previous set of SimGots that I reviewed, the EM6L, wasn't this forgiving. It definitely told you very clearly what is compressed compared to what is not. One song in particular which I always don't like listening to is Miley Cyrus's Malibu on Apple Music. With any other set of IEMs or headphones, listen to that, the bass just seems loose. There's no structure to it. The compression just kills that song entirely. So while I was just going next on my playlist, I was surprised to see that this track sounds fun on these IEMs. It's not unbearable. You can listen to this. So what's nice about this is that you do have more music you can listen to without really turning it away just because it's compressed. I think even if you've got older tracks that in your old libraries that are compressed, or MP3s should sound good as well. No doubt high-res will sound better, but it is quite forgiving with older tracks as well. Another thing I wasn't expecting this to handle really well is its timbre in general, because I did listen to the EM6L recently and I thought that was pretty good, but when I put these on, these are really, it's terrific how true it is, because it made me think about my days when I was doing my audio engineering and setting up guitars and pianos and proper acoustic instruments. The overall tonal quality it's able to bring to you is quite true. So much so, these earphones, or should I say these IEMs in particular, to me have a sense of humility, because when they present to you, it's almost like it wants you to forget that you're listening to them. It tends to disappear significantly with a lot of music, especially if it's high-res, and it just wants you to focus in on the music. And there are very few sets of headphones or IEMs that I've heard that make you really, or have made me not realize that I'm not listening to them in particular. I'm not listening to the equipment, but I am listening to my music. So it's a terrific set that way. It's tuned really well by Simgot. I can see the highs being a little on the brighter side. For some people, they might find it a little too, I wouldn't say it leans towards being shrill. It doesn't lean towards being shrill. I'd say it's just about right. It doesn't get too aggressive, unless of course you switch between some of the nozzles. I did find some of the nozzles to be a little too sibilant for me, especially the brass one. But nozzle 2 and nozzle 3 I really enjoyed. Its mid-range really surprised me because of how well it was layered with instruments and vocals. I suppose I've never really experienced a set of IEMs at this price range with this level of quality, because this is the first set that I'm reviewing in this price range in particular. And the way it separates, it is able to give you textures off of different instruments and vocals The tonal quality feeds through very well, and thankfully the lower mids are not recessed, so you don't get nasal sounding female vocals and male vocals. It does sound very true. It is very true towards whatever instrument is being played for you. The bass is heavy. It has weight to it. It has good extension, but I am being a bit picky when I say I wish it were tighter. But this tightness in bass, I think, would make more sense only with electronic music. With acoustic music, it's fine. An upright bass, a cello, all these things do sound more than good enough. There is a good amount of energy with these instruments. It's not that it is lacking. It is definitely, well, it's more on the energetic side for bass. So much so, that's the only reason why I said let me try electronic music with it, because I normally don't even do that, but it was very enjoyable to listen to. But again, it is worthwhile making sure you do listen to high-res music with this, because that's where these really do come alive. If you have good hardware driving it and you have high-res music, these are just phenomenal to listen to, and I'd say they're super value for money. So speaking about the price, well, at the time of recording this video, I'll tell you about their prices. You can buy these from headphonezone.in if you're buying these from India, and if you are watching from overseas, you can buy this from the Linsol website as well. So at the time of recording this, these have a maximum retail price of 21,999 on Headphone Zone. I'm not too sure if there's an MRP abroad, but the selling price, at least on Headphone Zone right now, is 18,999 on headphonezone.in. And if you want to buy these off of the Linsol website, these are being sold for $219.99. So I'd say, well, considering how these have performed, I'd say they're terrific value for money. In fact, what I can compare with this is I have recently just reviewed the Simgot EM6L. They're a lovely set of IEMs, but honestly, if I had the extra cash to pitch in towards this, I think I'd go for this, because it's not that the EM6L is lacking or bad. It's just got a very different character to this, the way it handles and presents itself. I do prefer how this handles itself. It's slightly richer in detail. It's better layered. It's better structured. The bass on the EM6L is pretty good. But this, I think, it has a hand over the EM6L when it comes to the layers it has in the music. The way it handles its timbre. Everything is slightly truer sounding. To me, it gave me goosebumps, which I normally don't get from many sets of earphones or headphones or speakers for that matter. So the fact that I could forget that I was listening to a set of IEMs and really enjoy the music, I'd say these are super value for money. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I hope I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning in to Paul's POV for some sound advice.